Welcome back to Men and the City. Hope you're keeping warm wherever you may be. It's a particularly cold day today in the outskirts of Washington, D.C., so I'll try and abbreviate this video and make it a bit more compact than some of my recent ones. Today's video is called We Are Living in Apocalyptic Times, Wake the Normies. Apocalypse is an interesting word. It carries tremendous meaning. It's a very impactful word. Even the sound of it makes a dent in your psyche, doesn't it? But the word apocalypse is a Greek word, and it means to reveal. And so when I say we're living in apocalyptic times, what I do not mean is end times per se. What I mean is we're living in a time of revelation. We're living in a time of disclosure. We're living in a time of truth bombs. Now, for most of you watching, especially those of you that have been privy to a lot of these ideas that we discuss on this channel and beyond, you've been, you might say, awakened for some time. You've been red-pilled. You have been initiated, let's go with that, for a number of years. And that period of time has been extremely difficult because initiation, in this sense, means isolation. It means that you've been ostracized. It often means that you provoke slander against you or people dismiss you. The normies, the regular folks, the 9-to-5ers, however you want to describe them, the folks that are embedded in the legacy system. Some people talk about that or call that the matrix. But in any case, life has not been easy for those of us that have been, shall we say, more informed, more engaged, red-pilled. But nonetheless, we have been initiated, and so here we are. Well, on the heels of revelations dating back really since the onset of COVID in 2020, there is a broader red-pilling effect that's beginning to mainstream. You're seeing it in the Manosphere, you're seeing it in the cryptosphere. A lot of the ideas that were largely irrelevant or only discussed in obscure spaces on the internet 10 or 20 years ago are increasingly mainstream. And the reason for that, in my view, is because the legacy structure run by what I call the gerontocracy is breaking down. Now, I know many of you believe that this is a premeditated demolition and the folks in charge have gamed the system and so forth, and I stridently and categorically disagree with that for various reasons. But let's set that aside for the moment. We're living in a time of revelation. More insights, disclosures, expositions are coming this year. And I say this on the heels of more revelations about Epstein. So his client list has been circulating on the internet. It shows conclusively that he had relationships, untoward relationships with all kinds of people in positions of power. That's one salient example of what I'm talking about, but there are more. There are revelations forthcoming about the financial system, about our gold holdings in the New York Fed and Fort Knox and elsewhere. The viability of the banking system is a form of this as well. But in any case, or in each case, most of you that are watching are privy to many of these things. They're not all that earth-shattering, but to the masses, to the normies, to the blue-pilled, to those that have lived a very vanilla, mundane life, a lot of these revelations are going to be quite shocking. When I began my military career back in 2002, because I didn't have stellar grades, because I wasn't a valedictorian, I didn't have 4.0 GPA and so forth, my grades were not terrible, but they were definitely mediocre. I had to do a year of prep school before I went to the 4-year academy. And that year was difficult, to say the least. It was extremely harsh. It was a very difficult environment in Newport, Rhode Island, which is great for about 90 days, and then the winter hits. And that year, the winter was particularly bad. And there's nothing to do in the wintertime in Newport, Rhode Island, and the closest city is Providence, and that's not a very nice place either, in my view. It certainly wasn't when I was there. So over the course of that 10 or 11 months period when I was there, the group of candidates that were vying to join the academy the following year, we were tested. And we lost about a third of the class. Either they dropped out, maybe they failed out, maybe they quit. And it was a very different environment than the academy. There isn't much invested in you at these prep schools, so we were often encouraged to leave, to quit, which is the way a lot of the military academies used to operate. Today, it's not about attrition, it's about retention. Another symptom of the problem in the U.S. military, and I would say beyond that. But those of us that made it through this very sluggish, difficult, irritating, annoying year that began with a very brief military indoctrination that was a whole hell of a lot tougher than anything at the academy, and then an academic regimen that was just physics, chemistry, and math all year long. I mean, it was just drudgery, to be sure. We were prepared. We were initiated. And so, as is customary, we were asked to show up a little bit early before we began indoctrination all over again for the 4-year program at the academy. And the upperclassmen who directed our training told us that our job there, in part, aside from getting through the process ourselves, was to help the newbies, was to assist the plebes, the underclass, in adjusting to military life. And I think in many respects that was true. We did just that, and I think we were helpful guides to a lot of these kids that had no military experience whatsoever. Well, a similar kind of mission, I think, falls to us in these apocalyptic times that we're living in. A lot of people, in my view, are not so much stupid as they are stuck. They're not as ignorant as maybe we think they are, but they're tied to a system that locks them in place, right? They have to go to a 9-to-5 job. Maybe they're married, maybe they have children, they have obligations that force them into this kennel. And for many of us, myself included, failing in my 20s, being unemployed, being directionless, lacking funds and so forth, was a harrowing experience that toughened me up on the one hand, but it also liberated me, as I've said before. And I think many of you have experienced the same. And there are many difficulties associated with that process. It's not easy. But it has prepared us, I think, for what is to come. And so the truth bombs that are forthcoming will not be that shocking to any of us. We're, I think, plugged in to what is coming, whether it's problems in the financial system, or it's an economic crisis, or it's a war that I think is imminent, likely starting in the Middle East, or other domestic upheavals that are coming in the United States. These things are going to be quite shocking when the general public is forced to deal with them. But for us, it will be less so. And as such, part of our mission, part of our objective, is to assist the normies as they come to this new awakening, as the ranks of the blue pill shrink and the ranks of the red pill grow. The final thing I'd like to offer on this is that many of you, understandably speaking, are rather hostile to society at large. Society in its current form is poisonous. Poisonous not just to us, but to the people that succeed within it as well. So I think on some level, you need to divest from your own personal experience a bit and just recognize that we're on the right side of these things, that the direction of this country, the United States, of the West in general, and the world is heading our way. Which is why I've said to many of you before, now is not the time to give up hope. Now is not the time to seek permanent solutions to temporary problems, as they say. Now is not the time to crucify yourself emotionally, mentally, spiritually, or otherwise, to blame yourself for your failures or shortcomings or whatever. Because as this awakening occurs, it will create new opportunities. And a lot of the questions that I get from you guys on this channel is, well, I sense what you're talking about is right, Cameron, but what the hell am I supposed to do about it? Well, this is part of what you're supposed to do about it. Part of it is to help others that are joining our ranks. And I think the numbers of people that are going to join our ranks is going to start multiplying exponentially this year and beyond as these truth bombs start to detonate around the world in various forms. So, we are living in apocalyptic times. Truth is coming to light about a great many things, some of which I will address in upcoming videos. Interpret that as a positive development for us, those of us that have been privy to a lot of these things for a long time, that have been slandered or ridiculed or marginalized or ignored or dismissed as conspiracy theories or theorists or what have you over the last 10 years. Vindication is coming. Take that vindication, make good on the promise of that vindication by helping others come to the same realizations. Stay tuned for more, and we'll talk soon.